The baby would not stop crying. Princess held her daughter close to her chest and tried to sing. Her voice was weak. Her body was tired. She had not eaten proper food for 5 days. The ship around her was dark and cold. The lights flickered every few minutes. The air tasted wrong. She was going to die here. Her baby was going to die here, and no one in the entire galaxy would know or care. The Eternal Dawn had been a beautiful ship once. It belonged to the Empire, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the known universe, were tall beings with silver skin that glowed softly in the dark. Their eyes were like stars. They lived for thousands of years. They considered themselves the most advanced species in existence. But none of that mattered now. The ship was broken. It floated in a cloud of space rocks and dust called the nebula. No one came to this place. It was too dangerous, too far from the normal travel routes. Had chosen this path on purpose. She was running away. Back home, her father, the Emperor, had made a decision. He wanted to give to Warlord. The Warlord was a monster. He ruled over 12 star systems through fear and violence. He wanted as his wife. More importantly, he wanted her baby daughter. A child with royal blood would give him a claim to the throne. Refused, her father did not care. The marriage would bring peace, he said. It would end the border wars. 1 princess and 1 baby were a small price for peace. So ran. She took her daughter, 3 loyal guards, and a single ship. She ran into the darkest corner of space she could find. And then the engine failed. Now she sat in the medical bay, surrounded by her wounded guards. 2 of them were unconscious. The third, a soldier named, was trying to repair a communication device with 1 hand. His other arm was broken. The baby kept crying. Tried again to sing. Mothers sang to their infants to keep them alive. It was not just tradition. It was biology. Babies needed a special sound frequency to keep their hearts beating properly. Without it, they would die. But was too weak. Her song was too quiet, and slowly her daughter was fatting. Looked up from his work. His silver face was grim. He did not say anything. He did not need to. They both knew what was happening. Then the lights changed. A new sound filled the ship. It was the sound of another vessel connecting to their airlock. Someone had found them. Felt hope for one moment. Then she felt fear. What if it was? What if his hunters had tracked her down? Grabbed his weapon with his good hand. He stood in front of the baby. He was ready to die. The airlock door opened. 4 figures stepped through. They were not any species recognized at first. They were short. Their skin was brown and pink and tan. They wore simple gray uniforms. They carried weapons, but the weapons were pointed at the ground. Humans. Had heard of them. Everyone in the galaxy had heard of them. They were a young species from a small planet called Earth. They had only been traveling through space for a few hundred years. Most of the elder races thought they were primitive, emotional, unpredictable, dangerous in the way that children with weapons were dangerous. Had never met one before. The human in front raised his empty hand. It was a gesture of peace. He said something in his own language, then switched to universal standard. His accent was thick, but she could understand him. "I am Sergeant Park. We received your distress signal. We are here to help." Did not lower his weapon. "This is a vessel. This is business. Leave now." The human called looked at. Then he looked past him at the crying baby in her arms. "Your child is sick," he said. It was not a question. Nodded. She was too tired to speak. One of the other humans stepped forward. She was a young female with a kind face. She held up a small device. "I am a medic. Can I look at the baby?" Moved to block her, touched his arm. "Let her," whispered. The human medic came close. She scanned the baby with her device. Her face became serious. "Her heart rhythm is wrong," the medic said. "She needs, I do not know this word, a specific sound, a frequency." "A mother's song," said bitterly. "And our princess is too weak to provide it. Your human machines cannot make this sound. Nothing can. The child will die." The medic looked at her device, then at her sergeant. She spoke in their human language. The sergeant listened carefully. He asked a question. She answered. Then Sergeant did something strange. He walked forward. He moved slowly, keeping his hands visible, raised his weapon higher but ignored him. He walked until he was standing right in front of. He looked at the crying baby. His face was soft, sad, like he was remembering something from long ago. Then he opened his mouth and began to sing. The sound was rough, imperfect, nothing like the precise mathematical harmonies of music. It was a simple melody with simple words in a language did not understand. Later, she would learn it was Korean, the language of his grandmother. It was a lullaby. And slowly, impossibly, the baby stopped crying. The medical bay was completely silent, except for the human's voice. Sergeant sang softly. The words meant nothing to, she did not speak Korean, but somehow the meaning did not matter. The feeling behind the words was clear. It was warmth. It was safety. It was the promise that everything would be okay. Baby's crying became quieter. Her tiny hands stopped shaking. Her breathing slowed down. Stared at the human with wide eyes. His weapon was still raised, but he had forgotten about it. He was watching something impossible happen. The human medic, whose name was Sarah, held her scanner toward the baby. Her hands were trembling. She looked at the screen 3 times to make sure she was reading it correctly. "The cardiac rhythm," she whispered. "It is stabilizing." "That cannot be right," said. "Human voices are wrong. They are too rough, too simple. They cannot produce frequencies." Sarah shook her head slowly. "I do not understand it either, but look." She showed him the scanner. The lines on the screen were becoming steady, regular, healthy. Another human stepped forward. She was Corporal, the team's engineer. She had curly black hair and smart eyes. She pulled out her own device and started recording the sergeant's voice. "The frequency is wrong," said quietly to Sarah. "By every measurement, this should not work. His voice is not hitting the right notes." "Then why is it working?" Looked at her data for a long moment. Then she looked at, who was still singing, his eyes half closed like he was somewhere else entirely. "I think," said slowly, "it is not about the frequency, it is about the feeling." Sora frowned. "Feelings do not show up on medical scanners." "No, but maybe they show up somewhere else." Pulled up old research files on her device. "Look at this. Human music is different from other species. We do not sing to be perfect. We sing to make other people feel something. Our brains are built to recognize emotion in sound. Maybe the baby is not hearing the right frequency. Maybe she is feeling the right intention." It was a strange idea. There were scientists. They believed in things they could measure and prove, but was holding her daughter, and her daughter was alive, and the only explanation was a human soldier singing a song from his childhood. Finished the lullaby. He sang the last note quietly, letting it fade into silence. Then he opened his eyes and looked down at the baby. Was asleep. Her small chest rose and fell in a peaceful rhythm. Her face was calm. Looked up at the human. She did not know what to say. In culture, there were formal words for moments like this. There were proper ceremonies to thank someone who saved a royal life, but all of those words seemed empty now. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was rough from days without water. "You do not know us. You have no reason to help. We are not your people." Seemed confused by the question. He looked at his team, then back at. "She was crying," he said simply. "You were scared. That is enough reason." Did not understand. In her world, everything had a price. Every action had a political purpose. No one did anything for free. The warlord wanted her baby for power. Her father sacrificed her for peace. Even her loyal guards followed her because of duty and honor. But this human had walked onto a dying ship and saved a stranger's child just because she was crying. The 4th member of the human team stepped forward. He was lieutenant, and he looked more serious than the others. "Sergeant," he said, "we need to move. Our captain wants a full report, and this ship will not last much longer." Nodded, he looked at. "Can you walk? We can take you to our ship. It is small, but it is safe." Finally lowered his weapon. "Where will you take us?" "Horizon's Edge," said. "It is a neutral station. No one can attack you there, not without starting a war with half the galaxy." "That is 3 weeks of travel," said. "Yes, but our ship has food, medicine, a working engine," smiled. It was a strange expression on his alien face, but somehow it made feel better. "And I know more songs." Stood slowly. Her legs were weak. Sara moved quickly to support her. "I can carry the baby," Sora offered. Hesitated. Mothers did not let others hold their children. It was not proper, but she was so tired, and this human woman had kind eyes. She carefully placed in Sora's arms. The medic held the baby gently, naturally, like she had done this many times before. "You have children?" asked. "No," Sora said, "but I have many cousins, and I was the oldest, so I helped take care of them all." They walked slowly toward the airlock, helped the other guards who were barely conscious. The humans helped carry them without being asked. As they stepped onto the human ship, looked back at the eternal dawn one last time. It had been her home for the worst 5 days of her life. She was glad to leave it. The human ship was called Soul's Pride. It was small and ugly compared to vessels. The walls were plain metal. The floors were simple. There was no art, no decoration, no beauty. But it was warm, the air was clean, and somewhere in the distance could hear humans laughing. For the first time in weeks, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The alarm woke everyone on the ship. Sat up quickly, her heart beating fast. Next to her, baby started to whimper. The lights in the small room had turned red. A loud voice was speaking over the ship's communication system. "All crew to battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, all crew to battle stations." The door slid open. Sergeant stood there, his face serious. He was wearing armor now, and he carried a weapon. "Stay here," he said. "Keep away from the walls." "What is happening?" asked. Hesitated for just a moment. Then he told her the truth. 7 warships just came out of hyperspace. They are broadcasting a message. Warlord wants you and the baby. He says if we do not give you to him, he will destroy us. Felt cold. She had known this moment would come. She had hoped it would come later. She had been foolish. "You should give us to him," she said quietly. "Your ship cannot fight 7 warships. Your people will die for nothing." Looked at her strangely. "We do not do that." "Do what?" "Give people to monsters." Then he was gone, running toward the front of the ship. Held her baby and waited. Through the thin walls she could hear people shouting, feet running, the deep hum of the ship's engine growing louder. In the command center, Captain Myra stood in front of the main screen. She was a small woman with short gray hair and calm eyes. She had been a soldier for 30 years. She had seen many battles, but she had never faced odds like this. The 7 warships filled the screen. They were huge and black, covered in weapons. Each one was 10 times the size of the Soul's Pride. Lieutenant stood beside her. "Captain, they are hailing us again." "Put it through." The screen changed. A face appeared. It was Warlord, he was, but he did not look like Princess. Where she was beautiful and graceful, he was and cruel. His silver skin was marked with the symbols of every enemy he had killed. "Human Captain," he said, his voice was cold. "You have something that belongs to me. Give me the princess and her child. Do this and I will let you live." Myra looked at the warlord for a long moment. Then she spoke. "No." The warlord's eyes narrowed. "You do not understand your position. You have 1 small ship. I have 7. You cannot win." "Maybe not," Myra said, "but I can make sure you do not win easily." She cut the communication. The warlord's face disappeared. Looked at her. "Captain, with respect, what are we doing? He is right. We cannot win this fight." Myra turned to face her crew. They were all watching her. Young faces, scared faces. They trusted her to make the right decision. "I joined the Navy," Myra said. "I made a promise. I promised to protect those who could not protect themselves. I did not promise to protect only humans. I did not promise to protect only when it was easy." She looked at each of them. "There is a mother on this ship with a baby girl. If we give them up, that baby will become a weapon in a monster's hands. I will not do that, but I will not order you to fight. Anyone who wants to leave, I will put you in an escape pod. No shame. No punishment." No one moved. Corporal spoke first. "Captain, I have been working on some ideas. The tactical systems are very advanced, but they are also very predictable. They follow patterns. If we do not follow patterns, we might confuse them." "What do you mean?" "I mean we fight like humans, Captain. Messy, unpredictable, crazy." Myra smiled. It was a dangerous smile. "Show me." What happened next would become famous throughout the galaxy. Military academies would study it for centuries. They would call it the Battle of Edge, and they would never fully understand how it worked. The Soul's Pride did not fight like a normal ship. It ran. It hid. It turned back and attacked when the enemy expected it to keep running. It fired missiles that did not explode but instead released clouds of metal dust that blinded enemy sensors. It sent fake distress signals that made the warships chase ghost ships in different directions. The humans fought without honor, without dignity, without any of the proper rules of space warfare. They fought to survive. Had programmed their movements to be random, literally random. A computer picked their next direction based on nothing at all. The tactical computers could not predict randomness. They were designed to find patterns, and there were no patterns to find. For 6 hours, the Soul's Pride danced through the debris field of the nebula. 2 warships crashed into asteroids while chasing them. One was disabled by a clever trap involving a fake surrender signal. But the humans were taking damage too. Their shields were failing. Their weapons were running low. They could not run forever. Then Myra made one last crazy decision. She turned the ship around and flew directly at the warlord's command ship. Not to attack, to fly past it, so close that the warship could not fire without risking damage to itself. It worked. The Soul's Pride shot past the enemy fleet and into open space. Behind them, ships tried to follow, but they were too slow and too confused. By the time the warlord reorganized his fleet, the Soul's Pride had reached the jump point. In one flash of light, they were gone, traveling faster than light toward safety. In the command center, the crew was silent. They were alive. They should not be alive, but they were. Myra sat down in her chair. Her hands were shaking. "Someone tell our guests," she said quietly, "that they are safe now." The journey to Horizon's Edge took 3 weeks. In that time, everything changed. At first, they kept to themselves, and the other guards stayed in their small room. They were polite to the humans but distant. They had been taught their whole lives that humans were primitive, young, unimportant. It was hard to change that thinking, even after the humans had saved their lives. But ships are small places. People cannot avoid each other forever. The change started with Private Sora. One of his guards, a soldier named, had a wound that would not heal properly. Medicine was advanced, but it required special equipment that the human ship did not have. The wound was getting infected, was getting weaker every day. Sora asked if she could help, refused at first. Human medicine was primitive, he said. It would only make things worse. But was dying, so eventually allowed it. Sora looked at the wound for a long time. Then she did something strange. She took a needle and some thread and began to sew the wound closed. Was horrified. "What are you doing? You are putting holes in her body." "They are very small holes," Sora said calmly, "and they will help the wound stay closed while it heals." "This is barbaric." This is what we do when we do not have fancy machines. Sora finished her work and wrapped the wound in clean cloth. Keep it dry. Change the bandage every day. She will be fine. Did not believe her, but 3 days later was walking again. A week later, the wound was almost completely healed. How did you learn this? Asked Sora one evening. My grandmother taught me, Sora said. She lived in a small village with no hospital. She had to learn how to fix people with just her hands. Your species has no natural healing abilities, said. No regeneration. No special immune system. How do you survive injuries? Sora smiled. We help each other. That is how we survive everything. Meanwhile, Corporal was spending time with the engineers. They were curious about human technology, especially after seeing how the Soul's Pride had fought against the warships. Showed them the ship systems. They were not impressed at first. The technology was old, simple, nothing compared to engineering. Your weapons are weak, one engineer observed. Your shields are thin, your sensors are basic. How did you fight 7 warships with this? We did not try to be stronger than them, explained. We tried to be different from them. Your tactical computers are designed to predict logical actions, so we acted illogically. That is stupid. Yes, but it worked. Pulled up the battle data on her screen. Your ships expected us to run in straight lines. We turned randomly. Your ships expected us to fire at them. We fired at empty space to create dust clouds. Your ships expected us to surrender when we were losing. We attacked instead. The engineer studied the data for a long time. This should not have worked. I know, but humans have a saying. Sometimes the idea is the best idea because no one expects it. The engineer did not understand, but he was beginning to see that maybe there were things about humans worth learning. The biggest change happened between Princess and Sergeant. Found herself watching the sergeant whenever she could. He was so ordinary. He had no special rank, no noble blood, no great power. He was just a soldier who followed orders and sang lullabies to crying bobbies. One evening, she found him alone in the small observation room, looking out at the stars. May I join you? She asked. Of course. They sat in silence for a while. The stars moved slowly past the window. Somewhere far away, his home planet was spinning without her. I have been trying to understand your people, said finally, and I cannot. What do you not understand? Everything. Turned to look at him. You are weak. You live short lives. You have no special abilities. The galaxy is full of species that are stronger, smarter, older than you, but you act like you belong here. You act like you have the right to save princesses and fight warlords. Why? Thought about this for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. My grandmother used to tell me stories about Earth, about our history. We did terrible things to each other. Wars, cruelty, suffering. For thousands of years, we hurt each other because we were scared and angry and stupid. That does not answer my question. I am getting there, smiled sadly. The thing is, we also did beautiful things. We built hospitals for sick strangers. We wrote music that made people cry. We crossed oceans to find new places, then went back to tell everyone what we found. We looked at the stars and said, we want to go there, even though we had no wings. He turned to face her. We are not strong because we are powerful. We are strong because we keep choosing to be kind. Every generation we have to make that choice again. And most of the time we choose to help each other, to protect each other, even when it is hard, even when it hurts. Was quiet. In her world, strength meant power over others. It meant making people fear you. It meant taking what you wanted because no one could stop you. But this human was describing a different kind of strength. The strength to be gentle when you could be cruel. The strength to protect when you could ignore. The strength to love when you could hate. She looked at her daughter, sleeping peacefully in her arms. Was alive because a stranger had chosen to sing. I think, said slowly, I am beginning to understand. 1 year had passed. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room had ever seen. It was built on Prime, the capital world of the known universe. The ceiling was so high that clouds formed inside. The walls were covered with the flags of 1,000 different species. Today, representatives from every major civilization had gathered. They sat in floating platforms arranged in a massive circle, each species watching the center stage with their own strange eyes. Stood at that center stage, she was no longer a fugitive princess. She was now the leader of her own political movement. Warlord was dead, killed by his own generals after his failure to capture her had made him look weak. The empire was changing. Slowly, but it was changing. And today, the council was deciding the fate of humanity. For 300 years, humans had been classified as a provisional species. This meant they were allowed to travel through space, but they had no vote in the council, no voice in galactic affairs. They were considered too young, too emotional, too dangerous to be trusted with real power. Today, the council would vote on whether to grant humans full membership. Many species opposed this. They had always said humans were primitive. The Empire believed humans were too violent. The mindful collective thought humans were too individual, too selfish, too focused on their own small lives to understand the greater good. Had requested permission to speak. The council had granted it, expecting her to support her own people's position against humanity. They were wrong. 1 year ago, began her voice carrying through the massive hall, I was dying. My ship was broken. My guards were wounded. My daughter was fatting. I had no hope. The council listened in silence. Then a human ship found us, a small ship, a weak ship. They had no reason to help us. We were not their people. We were not their allies. By every law and custom, they could have left us to die and no one would have blamed them. She paused, letting the words sink in. Instead, a human soldier sang a lullaby to my daughter. He sang a song from his childhood, a song his grandmother had taught him, and somehow that simple song saved my child's life. Murmurs spread through the hall. Many species did not believe this story. It seemed impossible. I did not understand why he did it, continued. I asked him, I said, you do not know us, you gain nothing from this. Why would you help? And do you know what he said? She looked around the room at all those alien faces. He said she was crying, you were scared. That is enough reason. The murmurs grew louder. Many representatives were confused. Some were angry. This was not how the universe worked. Everything had a price. Everything had a purpose. No one did anything for free. Later said, 7 warships came to capture us. The warlord demanded that the humans give us to him. If they refused, he would destroy them. 1 small ship against 7 warships. The humans could not win. She smiled. It was a fierce, proud smile. They refused anyway. They fought. They used every trick, every clever idea, every desperate plan they could think of. They did not fight with honor or dignity. They fought to survive. And they won not because they were stronger, but because they would not give up. Walked slowly across the stage. She had prepared this speech for weeks. She had practiced it 100 times, but now the words came from her heart. You ask what humanity offers the Galactic Alliance. You say they are young. They are. You say they are emotional. They are. You say they are unpredictable. They are. But let me tell you what else they are. She held up her daughter, was 1 year old now. She was healthy and strong and beautiful. She looked out at the council with curious silver eyes. This child is alive because a human stranger chose to be kind. Because a human captain chose to fight for someone she did not know. Because human soldiers chose to risk their lives for a family that was not their own. His voice grew stronger. You see humans as primitive because they feel deeply. You see them as weak because they protect those who cannot protect themselves. You see them as chaotic because they value individual lives over grand systems. She looked directly at the representative, her own father's ambassador. the man who had once helped arrange her marriage to a monster. I see them as what we all forgot to be. The hall was completely silent. We elder races have lived for millions of years. We have built empires that span the stars. We have created technology that would seem like magic to younger species. But somewhere along the way, we forgot why we built those empires. We forgot what technology was supposed to be for. We became so focused on power and control that we forgot about kindness, about compassion, about the simple truth that a crying baby deserves to be comforted even if she is a stranger. Held her daughter close. Humanity is not perfect. They have made terrible mistakes in their history. They will make more mistakes in their future. But they have something that many of us have lost. They have the ability to look at a stranger in pain and say, I will help you not because I have to, but because I want to, because it is right, because that is who I choose to be. She took a deep breath. That is what humanity offers the Galactic Alliance. Not power, not technology, not military strength, something much more rare and much more valuable. She spoke the final word clearly, letting it echo through the great hall. Compassion. The vote was held that same day. The result was not close. Humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Alliance. For the first time in history, the young species from the small blue planet called Earth had a voice among the stars. In the celebration that followed, found Sergeant Park in the crowd. He was wearing a formal uniform now, looking uncomfortable and out of place among all the alien dignitaries. Sergeant, she said. He turned and smiled. Princess, that was a good speech. It was the truth, she paused. I never properly thanked you for my daughter for everything. Shrugged, it was such a human gesture. You do not need to thank me. I was just doing what anyone would do. Shook her head slowly. No, Sergeant, that is exactly the point. You did what anyone should do, but most people do not. That is what makes you special. She leaned forward and kissed him gently on the forehead. It was a blessing, given to heroes and saints. Thank you, she whispered, for reminding the galaxy what it means to be good. Then she walked away, carrying her daughter toward the future, toward a universe that was a little bit kinder than it had been before. All because one human soldier had chosen to sing.